Greetings and welcome to Ghost Chat and other paranormal things. I'm Electric Elisa, one of your hosts.
I am Jody. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Hetty. Hi.
I'm Jody, one of your other hosts.
And we are the Spooky Sisters.
We are the Spooky Sisters.
We are Spooky Sisters. Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, it's free.
And if you have any paranormal stories or something that's happened to you, please feel free to email us at thespookysisters666@gmail.com. We may share them on our podcast, or we may even have you on our podcast. So thespookysisters666@gmail.com.
Okay. So today we're actually interviewing me, but we also have my friend Debbie here, who also has experienced some of the things, and well, she used to be my neighbor before I moved far away. But, what?
Everybody's
All
got
right.
the giggles.
I know, I see that.
I'm afraid to talk. Should I talk?
Sure.
I'm going to start this question now. Okay. What was your first experience, Elisa, as with this ghost or entity in the Kansas house? How old were you?
Like maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
And
wow.
There was, so my mom used to get me up sometimes in the middle of the night just to check on me. Sometimes I would fall out of the bed, I apparently had active dreams or something. I don't know. And so this one night I woke up and I saw her standing in my doorway, and she was wearing the work clothes, and I can still see this to the day. I still remember what she was wearing.
Right.
And wearing her work clothes, and she was standing in the doorway. But it was like, I don't know what time it was because I was like young. I didn't tell time at that age. But it was dark. Everybody was asleep. And my mom usually didn't stay up late anyway. And so she was just beckoning like this, like, come towards me. But she wasn't saying anything, and I'm just looking at her like that was really unusual. That wasn't our usual thing that happened. She usually would say something, she'd come over to the bed, hey, or she would have said something like, I'm just checking on you, or something.
So that wasn't a usual interaction. It was kind of not your usual interaction. Okay.
And I kept saying, come here. And she wasn't really responding much.
Did she look different really, at all?
We're looking, and I always had a nightlight. So in the glow of that, to me, she looked, yes, it was a little off. The more I looked at it, the more I thought about the situation as it was happening. I was just like, is she a little pale for her? I mean, even now, my mom isn't exactly dark skin. She's pretty pale.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't say looks unusually pale or anything. And so to be a little more so than that, but again, who knows, the lighting and everything. But something about it just, it felt wrong. And I just couldn't figure out why she couldn't come through the door.
Right.
And why she wasn't saying anything. And then she kind of just, she was trying really hard for some reason to get me to come out there, which was weird. And so, obviously I didn't. And then she just kind of, instead of like going to the room across the hall, it was like she went into the hall and just disappeared.
Ew.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Yeah,
Because
that
the
would
room
have
across
given it away.
yeah,
Yes.
the room across the hall was um my parents' room. They were just right across the hall. Um and
Um,
then yeah,
what room
and I will
were
say,
the ghost or entity found in most prevalently during those times that you experienced in Kansas?
where were they found?
In other words, yeah, when you experienced this entities or entities in Kansas, where were they found most?
Well, most of the time I didn't see anything except maybe some shadows.
Okay.
But I have more to that story. So
Oh, okay.
I actually that I wanted to get up and go to my mom's room immediately after to check, to verify was she actually there. Um, but I was like, I don't want to run
Oh.
into whatever that was in the hall if it's still there. Um, and so I went to sleep and that was when I had, and it's so weird because the whole thing I remember very well, that I had a dream after that about a witch, which,
Oh.
yeah, which, first of all, a frame of reference of a 3 and 4-year-old of a witch is Disney.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's
Um,
true.
and so I think my mind was trying to figure out what was going on. And so in my dream, this witch was trying to get me, but it was very much a dream and I knew that. And then after I had that, then I figured enough time had passed and I went across the hall to my parents' room. It was still very dark, so her clothes were on the floor from work from the night before, actually, which is kind of weird because she didn't normally just toss them there, but they had hampers. I don't know. She must have been tired. But I asked her, I actually woke her up and I asked her, did you come in my room at all? And she said no.
Hmm.
And so I told her what I saw, and she said her her response to that was, well, maybe it was your grandfather visiting you.
Hmm.
Which she was maybe talking about her dad. I never met either of my grandfathers. They passed young, and my parents weren't exactly that old when their fathers died. But and I said to her, of course, I was like, why would he wear your clothes?
That's true.
Good point.
That's funny.
And so she goes, I don't know, but just go back to bed. I'm sure you're fine. It's fine.
Unless she was sleepwalking or something. That's very
No, my
weird.
mom doesn't really sleepwalk.
Yeah.
Like ever. And she was also like deaf in one ear, because she had mumps when she was young, and it caused her to lose hearing and ears.
Yeah.
So when she would sleep, she would sleep on the hearing side. So that side, the part one she could hear, would be against the pillow.
Yeah.
And my dad used to snore a lot, so
Oh wow.
that was another reason. But yeah, so that was really weird, and I've never really forgotten that one. It's probably the thing that happened that I remember with the most detail.
You probably didn't go back to sleep after that, Lise.
Well, it was challenging, but then again, I was like, well, trying to reason, logically, as
Right.
was a little kid, trying to be like,
Wow.
Because it wasn't like I grew up in
Very
a
scary.
house where people talked about ghosts. That started with me.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Very
So I have
scary.
no clue what that could have been.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Oh, very frightening. I would have go stay in my mum's room. I don't think I would have gone back to my room. I've been so terrified, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right. I guess I'll go ahead with the second question. What rooms were your entity found in most prevalently?
I don't think it was necessarily any particular room, but I felt like the downstairs had like, I don't know, it would be fine at times, and then other times didn't feel so good. But my own room when I was young, because I did change to a different room in the basement, but the room I had always felt like it was disconnected from the rest of the house, which was so weird.
I remember that.
So was
Yeah.
the room, I guess, your bedroom upstairs, did that always feel like the room that everything happened in,
I
even
can't
after
really
you
say like
left it?
not really, but because I couldn't ever figure out, like, it didn't seem like it necessarily was tied to that, but when I was in that room, things would happen out in the hall. Like,
Oh,
I remember one time sitting
so
on
it
my
was the
bed. It was like,
hallway.
maybe, but again, we were like the first people that ever lived there. And I remember sitting on my bed. I was reading something, and I remember I heard the light go on in the bathroom. And this was like after school. Like, and a lot of us were latchkey kids.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I looked up and I was like, why did it sound like the bathroom light came on? There's nobody here. And I just remember there was enough things that were happening, whether they be noises or just feeling like you're being watched,
Right.
that I arranged, to go to a friend's house after school instead, that lived up the street.
So did other
And
family members experience this kind of phenomenon? Do they feel awkward or uncomfortable?
not that I know of. I mean, my dad, when I told him that, oh, Robin's here.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Hey, Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Robin,
Hi.
what's going on?
So glad you made it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oop, you froze up.
Oh,
Oh well, let's just keep going with the
yeah.
answer then. Other family members. I think you're
Okay.
starting to talk about your dad.
Yeah, because I would say something like that, like that I thought our house was haunted, and he's like, he would joke that yes, it's haunted by the ghosts that never lived here,
Oh,
and I would say, well, but you don't know what happened on the land.
true.
Oh, yeah. So he kind of pushed it aside kind of a little bit.
Skeptical.
He was skeptical about it. But did your
Yeah.
sister ever feel that way, or
Your brother.
brother, or your...
My brother doesn't believe in anything like that,
Okay.
and my sister, I don't really know.
Okay.
There, the downstairs, I know, Jody and Hetty, you've been over to the house.
Yep.
And I don't know what you guys picked up.
There was like an energy type of thing there. I didn't really feel that I felt something was there. I don't know if I felt like it was a bad thing, a bad energy. But there was always a heaviness, I guess. I felt there for sure. We spooked ourselves out a couple times.
Yeah.
I felt more heavy downstairs than I did upstairs, but it was an awkward feeling upstairs. But downstairs it was more heavy downstairs.
Very.
Upstairs it was a little more awkward, like hesitant feeling, like you're waiting for something.
Mhm.
Um I always felt a little like I wanted to keep the door closed upstairs.
Mhm.
Never wanted to keep that door open for whatever
What?
reason, and I don't know why. And downstairs I always felt like cold, 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 cold,
Yeah.
and I did not want to be downstairs for any length of time downstairs.
We used to
Uh,
watch horror movies down there too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we did.
yeah. I remember that a lot.
Yep. And one time we scared ourselves. We ran outside. Remember this, Elisa? We
Oh, yeah, we had that little party with that. Yeah.
Yes, and we looked in. We ran outside, but we looked in the window and thought we saw something inside that
Oh,
basement.
yeah.
I don't remember what it was now, but it was there was a energy. There was surely an
Mhm.
energy down there.
Yeah, yeah. I believe it. I do. That
Mhm.
house
And I
was
know,
a little weird. There's
and it's
something
weird
going on.
because when I became a teenager, I moved down to the downstairs room
Yeah.
after my siblings had moved out. So when I was in high school, and it's a smaller room. I really didn't feel anything too terrible in there.
No.
No, not really. Me either.
But yeah, I mean, all of us siblings took turns in that room. That was like probably like the furthest you could get from your parents when you're a teenager.
All right, I'm
Yay,
moving on
bonus.
to the next
Okay.
question.
I will say that when after, because I was like, my mom nicknamed me the boomerang child because I was always trying to go somewhere else, and I'd wind up back for whatever reason for a period of time. And I came back at one time, long story short, because I had a feeling that I needed to be back home, and there's other things that happened, but I'm not going to talk about that this time. Just stuff like premonitions and knowing things. But when after my dad passed, and then I finally finished college, and I moved across this, like halfway across the country, and my mom told me that for the first time, she felt like there was something there, and she didn't get the feeling it was my dad. But I asked her about that recently, but she didn't really remember. So
Interesting.
It probably wouldn't be something you'd want to remember because of the time frame and all that.
Yeah. And grief will do that, I think. I
Right.
genuinely think that was part of it. But I also think that entities will attach to people who are grieving, and I definitely think that if there was something there, it would definitely make itself known to anything that was grieving or sad during that time. So
True.
she might have sensed it, and it might have been there, you know?
Right.
I'm really glad that she talked to you about it. She obviously felt safe enough to talk to you about it. And I'm glad that she got out of there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And got the help she needed, you know. Anyway, all right, are we off of that topic? Can we move on?
Does anybody have any questions about it?
I don't think so.
All right, moving all along. What was the scariest event you experienced in that house, and did it go away?
Well, probably the thing that happened to me when I was
The beckoning.
when the thing that appeared in the doorway that looked like my mom.
That's
but
pretty
wasn't.
scary.
That is horrifying,
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I would have been scared to death.
especially for a 3-year-old. Oh my
Oh my
god!
god. That would have been
Mm-mm.
traumatizing. Definitely.
I think
Yeah.
that would still bug me.
Did you honestly look at your mom differently for a really long time and wonder whether your mom was that thing or whatever that was?
No, because again, when it comes to like a lot of things, I feel like you have to go with that the feeling that you get off of somebody.
Sure, sure.
Um and my mom said even from a young age I just knew things that she didn't know how I knew. And she said they try to not tell me things. Um and
I would imagine
I
it
would
would mess with your trust, as a child. You know what I mean? It would mess with that trust issue or that trust bond there. You know what I mean? Because here you are, you see your mom, but but is it your mom?
Is it?
You're,
Yeah.
it would,
Mm-hmm.
it would mess with that. I mean, how scary was that?
I don't remember having that though. I just
So you'd ever felt like you were rejected or anything like that after that?
no.
Okay.
I
Probably
just
did.
thought it was a weird comment that she made. Like, oh, maybe it's your grandfather.
Oh yeah.
But she was like, I woke her up out of a deep sleep, I think. So, and that was the
You were a
first
real
thing she
smart
could
kid.
think of.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well,
I
you've
don't know
always
if
had a
that's
really good
smart.
bond with your mom, so that
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Well, and how, as a parent, how would you respond to that? It's I think possibly somewhat because as I got older, I got busy with other things,
Yeah.
and I was in, I had, we all had like the posters on the wall,
Yes.
in the 80s, and music was also like a big love of mine, and
And a good
you know
escape.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and writing, and I write things, but
Oh yes.
obviously a lot of what I experienced influenced a lot of things that I was interested in, because that probably because I was looking, and I think anybody who experiences anything like that is always looking for something to kind of validate what they experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Someone else that can relate or explain it or anything, because it's not, it's just we are all brought up to think logically and rationalize everything
Yeah.
and make sense of it. And it's something I don't think you can always get an answer about, because
Yeah.
while we have a lot of ideas and theories and, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, opinions on what is this and what is that, we don't really know.
Yeah.
And we don't have the capability to measure something that we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
That's
sense.
true.
So it's all kind of like, we're kind of fumbling in the dark, so to speak, to figure it
Yeah.
all out.
I agree.
True.
And then there's a part of me like, well, nothing bad actually happened. So you're kind of left with, I don't know, I just go with how I feel, what kind of vibe I get, I guess.
Well, yeah, you're playing it by ear, and that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing.
Because I remember seeing, okay, like the shadow people, yeah. And it's so funny because this was all before the internet, and so Jody and I used to talk about shadow people all the time. And I used to see like little ones, like I thought were maybe cats that had passed or something, and so those didn't bother me. I'd see them like for a second there, I was like, I just saw a cat. Oh wait, there's no cat here,
Yeah.
and
I still see that.
yeah. And I remember us seeing like something we jokingly called the Hat Man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And that was before, and then like the advent of the internet and all of that. I don't know, 20 years later, they're talking about the Hat Man.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
we'd already been talking about him.
we didn't know it was a thing. We were actually joking about it because
There's a man with the hat man.
and you know, I just remember we had just seen, it was like we weren't in my house or anything. We were like in Kansas City somewhere, and after a show, and after seeing Love and Rockets. And we looked up at some window and we saw this, and we were like, oh, is that a lamp? Is that a person? Is that? And then we joked that it looked like, you know, a silhouette of David J, who was in Love and Rockets.
Yeah, and he wore a hat. So we thought we saw a silhouette of him in the window. And we just kept calling it the Hat Man.
Yeah, we did.
All right, we've digressed. Officially.
Yeah.
Let's get back on task. Okay. After you were scared by the event, did you question what you saw? Did others in your family have well, we've already talked about your family and whether they've had experiences, but did you ever question what you saw? Was there a underlying question of whether or not you had made it all up in your head?
Sure, because I would think about it, and I didn't really go around talking about it a whole lot. I mean, I think I told some friends or something years later. And but I know that my memory was so vivid and so, like, I was very certain.
Okay.
It was just, it's weird. It's one of the things I've been most certain about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you experience dream communication with these ghosts? Sleepwalking or anything like that?
No, not in that house.
Okay. Did you ever hear voices or human-like noises?
Yeah, footsteps. Sometimes it sounded like someone was walking around the house when there was no one there. And I could be doing something. I could be like cleaning or something. And this is at any point in my life while I lived there growing up. And I would have been fine. I'd be listening to some music or what. And something would just change in the atmosphere.
Oh.
You mean the temperature you're talking about?
Not necessarily. I don't. And here's the thing. In a lot of my experiences, I didn't really notice a whole lot of temperature stuff necessarily. I mean, yes, the downstairs was always cold, but I mean, it also had. My parents always said it had really poor insulation. And so that was why. And they also kept it really cold, like in the winter even. Like they would turn it down really cold at night. And I remember, now that I think about this, it's really weird. Because I remember one time me and Rachel and Carol were downstairs. I don't remember if it was like after we had gone to a concert or something. And we were sitting there and we were so cold. It was colder than usual. And it could be that I just never been down there that late, but sure I had, because I had slumber parties when I was a kid. And we all started putting on our coats and our gloves and our hats, and we could you could see the breath.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And I was like, they're keeping it way too cold.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a little much.
Yeah, so that was the end of that get together. I mean, I think it was just, I don't even know.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been a thermostat. That had to have been something else. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a little
I
much.
don't know.
Wow.
I remember that we would come over during the summer, and summer in Kansas is not cold.
Right.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
we would go inside down in your basement, and
Uh-huh.
it was cold. Cold to
Yes.
where you
Mm-mm.
could see like fog on your windows, cold.
Wow.
Oh
You
wow.
know, you couldn't see out your windows because it was fog on them. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
It
I
was
would be
cold.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's something going on here. I
Yeah, that
used
is
to
bizarre.
I used to think that was a little weird, but
And and my parents always had an answer for why things were that way.
right. And your parents are very logical people. They're just very
Hmm.
logical people. They're gonna always have an explanation. They're just
Well,
those kind of people.
they're grown-ups too. When you're a child, I think
Right.
you're open to more stuff like that. You're innocent.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then grown-ups don't want to see it, or they don't see what we can see as children. Maybe when they
Right.
were children, I don't know.
And
I
grown-ups
don't
have a
know.
tendency to not want their kids to be afraid.
Right, they don't want them to
Right.
be scared.
Right.
They're trying to
Right.
protect you. Try to protect you.
Right. That's their job.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So naturally they're going to try to do everything in order to make you feel better. So
Right.
that's the first thing they're going to say, you know.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, but yeah, they never really they didn't like dissuade like what I was thinking was going on, but they didn't like go along with it.
Mhm.
They
right,
were just kind of like, we'll just not talk about it.
right.
Yeah.
They didn't do a lot of research. Let's put it that way.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
See.
Um did the footsteps have a regular pattern? In other words, did these things happen regularly, or was it just kind of like every once in a while it would happen?
Seymour, uh, it was probably more random, but
Random.
there were like I would say there were probably regular noises or at least feelings. Um, but if I was busy enough, then my head was too full to be open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't paying attention. Right. Check.
Hmm.
Um, all right. Next question, unless anybody has any more questions. Moving
Nope.
on. Did you have any odd behaviors out of your animals or any animal illnesses during that time?
Um, Not really, not things that weren't explainable.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the cat sometimes looked at things that I couldn't see, but sometimes cats do that too. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
All right. Moving on. Did moods change in the house during interactions with the ghosts or entities? Was there more fighting, anger, sadness, depression, that sort of thing?
I would say that that did go on in the house. Whether it's related to that or not, it's hard to say.
Okay. Yeah. So there was no telltale for sure that you think that that had anything to do with it necessarily.
Some kind of connection.
I I don't know.
Yeah. There was no way to know for sure.
No.
Next question. Um, when did you feel like you had a connection with your paranormal gifts? When did it start?
Um. Well, it's hard to say because I think at a young age I started kind of getting a feeling that there was something that I was trying to figure out was going on with that part. And I remember trying to, when I was little, I was like, well, let's see if I can talk to my cat with telepathy.
Oh,
I mean,
fun.
I
That's
have
funny.
no idea if that actually worked because there's
Do
no
you
way to
want to
verify.
I
I don't think it's probably a successful experiment.
Oh.
I mean, I used to do things like guess what cards I would I would pick and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that was fun.
And yeah, I mean, and Rachel and I used to like try to guess. We'd write things on pieces of paper, and then we try to guess before we picked what we pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually moved on to actually trying to see if we could read each other's minds.
Oh,
I think I did that as a child too. It's funny you saying that.
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Well, we did that as adults. And then I did have a lot of premonitions though, and those, it seemed like those started in adulthood. During my 20s, it was real prominent. My sister also had something happen. I don't remember if she was a teenager when that happened, but she had a premonition, and that kind of, it really upset her. And so I don't really bring anything like that up with her.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have any specific clairs or any specific like ability of any kind, like clairaudience or clairvoyance or premonitions or anything like that you've ever experienced?
Well, obviously the premonitions, yeah. I remember Heather one time, remember, she said to me, please don't dream about me, because she was
I'll work on that.
So you have premonitions is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then I didn't really like that. So I had then I would just like know things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like I don't know.
I think that's claircognizance or something like that. Is
Maybe.
that what that is? Okay.
And then I had a dream where I think my grandmother visited me. And she told me something, which somewhere I have this written down in a book, but and I talked to my mom about it afterward because I knew she could maybe verify more whether that would be my grandmother indeed or not, whether that sounded like something she would say.
Right.
Because there was a few things she said, I can't remember exactly, but she said something like, the light within you is growing dim and you need to do something about that. And I wasn't really sure. To this day, I really am not 100% sure what that meant. But I was in the midst of I think going back to college at the time. I was getting ready to do that. I hadn't yet, but I was going to. I was planning. So in my mind, I'm interpreting as she wanted me to get my shit together, and but she said people are going to need you, and I'm like, what? And then she kind of showed me that one of my parents was going to die, and that actually did happen.
Wow.
But so I had to think about whether I was going to tell my mom that or not, first of all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did, sort of, as best I could. I mean, and I kind of knew it was most likely going to be my father because it just seemed like that would make more sense, I guess. That would, I mean,
if it makes you feel any better, I had something similar happen to me with my father. I called my father. Actually, it happened that day. I had a bad dream that night, and I called my dad and mom, and I said, Mom, you've got to take Dad to the hospital right now. Something's happening to Dad. And she's like, I'm on the way right now. And I said, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, we're on the way to the hospital. And his gallbladder had burst.
Oh, wow.
And I knew immediately that there was something wrong. I just knew.
Yeah.
I woke up out of a dead sleep, and I was in Philadelphia at the time, and my dad is in St. Louis. So I just knew. I just knew. So it happened to me several times in my life that I've had that kind of thing going. It's really creepy when it happens too. You don't want it to happen. You don't want to see people that you love die, or people that
Oh,
No.
you care about
Right.
suffer.
oh, was your
It's
dad
Yeah.
okay?
it's a
Was your dad okay?
Luckily, it started to perforate, which was terrible. But they saved everything and they got him there on time, which
Good.
was a blessing in disguise, and everything worked out great. But
Hmm.
I also have seen some really good things too, where I saw my nephew being born. So I saw
Right. I
3
had
Wow.
that
months
happen.
ahead, I got to see my nephew,
Nice.
and I
Oh.
said, "Somebody's pregnant." and I and
Well, yeah.
I blew the surprise.
I had that with I had that with my sister when I was actually living with my brother, because I had lived in Florida like twice. So the
Mhm.
first time I was living with my brother, I got a call. It was my sister, and she said, "I have some news." And I said, "I already know. I I had a, you know, and she's like, "Did mom tell you?" And I'm like, "No, I had a dream, and I had just like that night before, and that she was like there. It was a weird dream because all my premonitions are kind of, they have a weird thing about them.
Yeah.
But there was a calendar in it, and it showed April, and it was, and I knew like then my sister was going to have a baby girl. And what I wasn't sure about, even though it should have been like straightforward, I was like, is the name going to be April, or is the baby going to be born in April?
Hmm.
So anyway, the baby was born in April.
Aw, that's
Oh.
nice.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it was,
Um,
yeah.
Sorry, you
But
digress.
I wanted to add though,
Okay.
going back to the thing about my father.
Uh-huh.
So, fast forward a few months, then he has to have this routine surgery. He's had it before. No, has never had any issues with it. Um, and then, I remember, that my mom was telling me, oh, he has to have a heart catheterization done because something was going on with the EKG. Long story short, there wasn't really anything going on with his heart, but who knows? So I knew, and the day that he was going to have it, but even before then, I when my mom told me that, I'd already gotten off the phone with my dad, and I was like, Mom, he can't have that. It's going to kill him. And she said, well, she didn't really get it. She was like, oh, well, he's going to bed now. Let's just let him rest. I'm like, Mom, put him on the phone with me. And she goes, no, he's resting. So I didn't really get to tell him, to his mind. But that, and I remember the day that it was happening, I was having panic attacks.
Oh no.
And one of my coworkers was like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not. And she's like, no. And then, because she didn't really believe in all that. Well, then something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And my coworker was completely freaked out because she's like, she'd never known anybody that, was literally saying this is going to happen. It has to be stopped before it happened. But, and my siblings and everybody pretty much had like, they said after everybody kind of had a bad feeling about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, well, that does no good now.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
but it was frustrating.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, when my friend died, was murdered, and I continue to this day that she was murdered. She was not. They said it was but I really believe it was a murder. I know deep down that she was murdered. But basically, to this day, I when I found out that she died, I heard in the
Mhm.
phone, I just dropped to the floor and screamed. I knew exactly. I mean, it was like electric shock went through my hand, you know what I mean? I could feel it, you know what I mean? And I just dropped the phone. I screamed. It was the worst feeling I could ever feel in my life. It was very dramatic. I mean, it was like one of those horrible movie, experiences that I was such a drama queen. But essentially that's how it felt, because you can't believe that you're given this real gift that
Mhm.
you think that you can actually maybe stop something
Right.
from happening, but you're not able to do anything
Mm-mm.
to stop it. And it's so frustrating and upsetting and scary to watch, and
Yeah.
have absolutely no ability to do anything
Mm-hmm.
to change the situation
Yeah.
and the circumstances. It's very frustrating and very upsetting, especially
Mhm.
when they're people
It
that you really care about. It
is.
it really ages you. Immediately, you're like, you don't want to get close to people anymore. I don't know whether you feel that way, but sometimes I don't really want to get close to people because of it.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard. It's really hard.
For fear
That
of
would be
losing
scary.
them.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to watch people die that you love, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And in his case, so what happened? It dislodged a blood clot that went right to his brainstem, so
Ooh.
it kind of made him like a vegetable.
Yikes.
So he was taken off. I mean, we didn't keep him on life support, so he had already made his wishes clear.
Wishes. Yeah.
I mean, who would want to be
Forgotten
like
all of that with your dad, and I'm really sorry that you went through all of that.
Yeah.
It was a
Mike.
horrible time for you, I'm sure.
Yeah. I know, but you came. You
Yeah.
came and saw me.
Oh,
Came with the family.
That was nice.
I know it was a horrible time. I'm sorry. Okay. Were you afraid to go home in Kansas because of these ghosts ever? Did your family become afraid to be in the house at any point?
No. No one really did.
You
No.
were never uncomfortable being there.
I mean, I was maybe uncomfortable at times, but I mean, you get older, and also you're not. I don't think you're as always as in tune to things.
Okay, this question I think I've already addressed. Have you heard odd noises, doors, lights, cabinets, slamming things, moving floorboards, or stairs?
There,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Not. I don't remember any cabinets slamming. I don't think.
Doors or lights, flickering, floorboards, or stairs
More like I could hear. It sounded like someone was walking.
walking. And then last question for the Kansas questions is, looking back, what you know now, would you have stayed in the house in Kansas, or would you have left?
Well, I was a kid, and it wasn't my
if you were
house.
given the option, let's play the game.
But I don't. As a kid, I always wanted to move. So, I mean,
So yes, you would have gone.
but not necessarily because of that. Just
Oh.
Boredom, maybe.
So
yeah,
it wouldn't have been out of fear. It would have been just because you wanted to go.
yeah. I think it would have been more that because, I mean, yeah, I don't think I was ever that terrified. I mean,
Okay.
what though, I think, and here's something though. My mom had told me that at one time, my dad was talking about leaving the house to me. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't think I would want to live there by myself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you did acknowledge that there was something weird going on in that house, and you weren't sure about it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I would be all by myself. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
don't think I'd want to. From what I remember about that house, I don't think I'd want to stay there by myself. There
Yeah.
was something to that place.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. I wouldn't
Yeah,
have wanted to stay there by myself for
I
sure.
felt safe because she was there. Lisa was there, and her
Yeah,
parents, and everybody. But by myself, if I bought it or something,
right.
whatever. And I have dreams about her house. I've had
yeah.
dreams, a few times a month about her house. So it's about
Wow.
that. It's very weird.
That
They're
is
Yeah, I
very
weird.
have occasionally had dreams where I'm back there and I don't want to be back there.
yeah. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
I honestly, I would never want to be in that house without your dad there. Your dad always made me feel safe there, but I would have
Yeah.
never wanted to be there without your dad there.
No.
Never.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Um,
and I have to admit, when my mom was going to be there by herself, I knew she needed that time, though.
Mhm.
It, yeah, I was like,
I didn't.
no.
I wouldn't have felt safe with her being there by herself.
Mhm.
No.
I mean, she's such a gentle soul that I always felt like, you know what I mean? I mean,
Mhm.
I know that she's a strong person. That's not it. I just think that she's a very gentle soul.
Yeah,
I just feel
Yeah.
like something would try to mess with her somehow,
take advantage.
or take advantage or yeah, and
Mhm.
I just didn't feel I wouldn't have felt safe with her being there by herself, you know.
Mm, I
Okay.
agree.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions about the Kansas house? Or should we move
Mm,
on to the Florida house?
can't think of anything.
Deb, do you have any questions?
No, I can't think of anything. I think because I talked to
All
Lisa
right.
about her house before, so I got to know a lot.
Well, we will move on now to Florida. All right. What was the scariest event that happened in Florida house? And did the activity subside as you lived there?
Ooh, I don't know if there was a particular scariest event. There were just strange things, and
Okay.
it felt very oppressive.
I don't know. What about the hangers that used to move? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, the hangers, yes.
Weird.
But I don't know. That was weird.
That was creepy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
creepy.
the hangers. Yeah, and it was that garage
Yes,
was
the garage
Something.
strangely a lot of activity in the garage of all
was in that
places.
garage. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It
Do you
was
Yeah,
remember
weird.
the faces we caught in the garage? And that little
yeah,
boy? Do
yep.
you remember the little boy in the garage? Was it the little boy?
I
There
don't
was something
know. There's a little
small.
boy.
Yeah, there was something small in there. I don't know what it was, but it was something small we caught on the camera.
Yeah, we caught a bunch of faces. I remember. I have to go. I have
Mm-hmm.
to go find those
The
pictures
Yeah.
again.
faces were creepy.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, they were creepy.
That was
There was,
really creepy.
but you know what I
yes.
noticed in your house, Elise? I noticed that around Brian, there seemed to be like, and I can see like like an energy. I could see it, and it like swooped around him. So he had that around him
Mm-hmm.
in the living
Ooh,
room.
Yeah,
freaky.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I don't know what
Because
it was.
Debbie can see like energies.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah, I think the house was definitely affecting him
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
and
think it
not
was
in
too.
a very negative way. Um, and that will happen
Okay.
when you.
All right. When was the first experience in Florida house?
So when we first moved in, and we were sitting on the couch, we had my two cats, and they were, of course, being cats and sleeping at that point because there had been way too much excitement moving in for them. And we heard a growl, and we were like, first of all, we were like, well, that's weird. What the heck is that? And it was inside the house. And then we were like, that's not usually a good sign, right?
No.
So,
In a new
Not
house,
surprised.
not so much.
Yeah, I don't usually hear growls.
no. And he said that he had heard that another time too, with when his daughter actually came to visit that summer for a little bit, and
Wow.
she also said she saw a face in the window
Oh.
at night
Hmm.
when she, in the room she was sleeping in.
And
Did,
also your
did
backyard.
she
And your
happen to?
backyard.
And then there was we also had we got a new camera. We were excited about a new camera, and we were taking pictures. We wanted to see, like, well, let's see how it does taking pictures outside at night. And also we took some in the house, and in the backyard, Brian was taking pictures. He didn't even see this when he took it, but when we were looking at the pictures on the TV, so it blew them up really big, which was nice. We saw, like, something he took a picture of in the backyard. Don't know what it is, but he joked and said, "Oh, look, it's like the devil." And I'm like, "Wait, go back to that picture." And then we looked at it more, and then we looked at the picture following it, and the head turned.
Oh,
And
my
we were trying to
gosh.
figure out for the longest time. Like, I had my brother and his wife look at it. What kind of animal could this possibly be, to, like, figure out what logical
Wow.
explanation there could be? And even my sister-in-law was like, "I don't know."
Wow.
that's creepy.
Now the only thing that years later come to me is, was there an owl there? But it really doesn't
Yeah.
look like an owl exactly. But
Yeah, that's just weird.
because I think all of you have seen that picture.
I can't wait for these pictures to be posted because
Yeah.
they are pretty
Yes,
intense to look at, and
they
they're
are.
really odd, and they really are pretty well captured. I always
Mhm.
have looked at them and thought, God, these are really weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, were you unnerved with your first encounter? Did they affect your animals?
Um, not so much the cats. Of course, my opinion is cats. I mean, I know people say, "Oh, cats can pick things up." Well, I don't know if they did or didn't, because they're cats, and cats don't always tell you what they know. So
That's
you
true.
have to guess. Here, guess. Um, and so the dogs,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure.
Wasn't
Um,
Spirit a little bit spooked by it?
yeah, I mean, both of them, because when we got Max, then I remember one night they went into one of the guest rooms or the offices or whatever we were using for, and it was dark, and they went in there for some reason. I don't know why they went in there, and then they ran out squealing, and I was like, okay, that's concerning. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
a little
would have
bit.
done that?
that would have freaked me out too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question. When did you realize it might be a demonic entity?
With the growl, I think.
With the growl, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something isn't right here.
No.
Okay. Yeah. What did you notice that instances happened in a specific area or areas in the house?
Uh, Not really, because I mean, like, things could happen in any area of the house, but maybe
I just used to feel it in the
more
garage
towards
more
one
than anything.
end. Well, there's the garage, but then there's that, I don't know, that one room the dogs ran out of. But I never, like, I had used that room for an office before and never.
That's
But I
right.
usually,
Yes, that room. I forgot about that room.
but I don't know, you know.
Did it happen only for you and Brian, or what about the family before who lived there before?
Don't know
You don't know.
anything about,
You never heard anything
like,
from the realtor or
no,
anything like that?
experience. No.
No.
Well,
Okay.
our realtor wasn't the she didn't list the house,
Oh, okay.
so it was.
So you never heard anything from them. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Were either of you ever touched by a ghost in the house?
Yeah, mostly Brian. And I actually asked him about that last night, and he's like, yeah, it was touching me back here, and a lot, like, he just felt it quite a bit, and
What
it really bothered
what did
him.
it feel like for him? Was it
Um, like, it was well, I know he was annoyed by it,
was
and
it
it
a
happened
cold
quite.
feeling or a hot feeling or
I, no, I think it was probably cold.
okay.
Did it sting or anything like that? Any kind of
He didn't say
stinging or
that.
biting? Okay.
Mm-mm.
It didn't leave any marks or anything like that? No. Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. It was just like kind of like brushing your hair or something like that.
It was touching his neck a lot,
Oh, okay. All right.
and that he did not like that.
Yeah.
Um, I remember one time I felt touched once when we were going through the house. I don't remember. I think we were going through and taking pictures. Well, he was taking pictures, and we were just seeing if we could capture anything, but we didn't really. So I was like, oh well.
And they were touching you.
I just felt it like once, and then after that, I didn't really notice.
Found
Yeah.
it. Sorry.
But here's the thing too. I'm usually like, you know how sometimes you feel something, but there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I just figured, well, it's just like, um, I don't know, nerves or overreacting to
Yeah.
nothing. I don't.
Absolutely. There's a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Okay, did something negative ever happen on the property that you knew about when you purchased the property?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay. Did you look into the history of the property?
Mhm.
No. None of that. Okay. Did you ever look into having a psychic walk through the house?
A psychic? No.
You had the ghost team, though.
Yep.
Yeah, we did have a ghost team.
That was my
Yeah.
next question. How about the ghost hunter? Talk about that.
Okay. Well, also one of the things that would happen sometimes is the stereo would come on by itself.
Oh.
But and that was in the living room.
Mhm.
But so this ghost team came out, and
Is that what prompted you to get the ghost team?
what?
What prompted you to get the ghost team to come out?
Just all of the weird experiences that we'd had there, and
Like the
maybe to
growling
get
and all of that was going on.
and to get some sort of verification.
Okay.
We didn't have like the equipment, so
Okay.
so they came out, and for a while they're using those ghost box, and I have mixed feelings about those, but Brian kept saying, oh, I think it's my grandfather, maybe he's coming to visit or something, and I'm like, I don't think it's your grandfather. So I don't think he would do some of these things. It just doesn't seem
Yeah.
like it.
It's just
And I know that, like, they came and they looked all over the yard and all over, like, because we had, like, pictures of orbs that were kind of strange that we got in, like, at the front yard. But at the same time, I also have mixed feelings about that, because I mean, there's logical explanations for a lot of that too.
Mhm.
So, um, my feeling on that is I don't really count that necessarily. And then we wrapped it up. I know we had a couple of friends over too during it, and then the guy, he got a picture of that thing in the backyard. He took a picture of something in the kitchen, and he got a picture of it, and he showed us. He's like, wait, I got something here. But he was not very proficient in using his phone, and he then
Mhm.
soon deleted it accidentally. I was like, it would have been nice to see that, you know, and have a copy of that.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of weird because for all there's like, we can probably rule out some things, and then that was weird, and I don't even know. It was weird. But and I know I took a picture of something once in the garage, and before the group came out, they said that it was ectoplasm,
Oh. Oh, wow.
but I'm not sure I believe in that.
Yeah.
So, but again, I only had one picture of it. Don't know where that is. It was pink-ish, and it was in the garage, and it was like coming down from the ceiling.
Mhm.
So I don't know, because there was nothing there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was in a picture, and then it wasn't there. So I don't know what that was.
Right.
I know that they later. Well, first they were saying, "Oh yeah, I think we got a lot of stuff, and we'll share it with you as soon as we're able to review it all." And then I waited and waited, and then they basically said that the guy said, "Yeah, we really didn't find anything," and then next thing you know, they're not going to have their group anymore, their ghost group
Oh.
anymore, and then they wanted me and Brian to take it over,
Oh,
Oh,
weird.
wow. I didn't know that.
and we were like, yeah, and we were like, no, I don't think we want to do that.
That would take a lot of time.
Yeah, a lot of time, equipment we don't have,
Expensive.
and
Yeah,
just
expensive.
yeah, it was really strange,
Yeah, that's
and
really weird. That
it
is odd.
was really strange.
That was really weird.
Well, also, a late friend of ours, Brian's had knew from like high school, had the picture of the thing in the backyard. He had put it through some sort of, and he had been like kind of a ghost hunter type person, and he had put it through some sort of photo program to kind of discern whether the thing was really there somehow. And when he was doing this, he did come to he said he told me basically that it was an entity in transition, but
Oh, in transition.
he was trying, he had put, and I had these pictures at one time. I don't know where they are now, but I'll have to look and see if somehow I don't know where they would be. But he also then said when he was trying to do more with it like crashed his whole computer system.
Oh, wow. Spirits are known for messing with electronic equipment. So
Yeah.
Right. And drain the battery.
And he was in the same state.
Yeah.
So that was weird, but like he had me like try to recreate it, try to debunk it, and all this stuff. And this was like after we got the picture and after we looked at it for a minute, and we were like, this is kind of weird. And so I was out there taking pictures and trying to do the same angles as it was taken before. And he's like, go this angle, and then do it again at night. Couldn't not ever recreate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little strange. And then there was another time I remember Brian was cooking. He was making dinner, and I actually saw this like mist, well, not really a mist, like a fog around him for a moment. And because I was sitting there on the couch and he was cooking, came over to because that you could see into the living room from the kitchen. And he was standing, and I looked over at him, and I was like, "There's, there's this. It was a grayish color, like a,
Yeah.
and then it was gone, like." And he's like, "Oh, well, maybe that was my aunt. I forget which aunt. I don't know when the anyway. Maybe he was like, oh, maybe she was helping me make this meal because it's one of the family meals." And I was like, "Huh, maybe." Um, but I know that there, um, there was a lot of other things. I don't know if you're gonna ask. I can't remember. If you're gonna ask.
It
That's
may be
okay.
coming up.
We were talking about ghost hunting and what you guys had your experience with the ghost hunters. Now I'm going to go on to. Did you notice any odd illnesses, aggression, anger, depression, or situations happen in the house before, during, or living in the house during that time?
I think that there was a lot of anger and a lot of I think there was depression. I think there was like it was weird because it wasn't really like that until we moved into that house, and then things just started to
Deteriorate.
deteriorate.
Yeah.
And weird behavior too
Yeah.
at times. Not me, but and then it was just kind of strange. There was I know that Brian was having a lot of nightmares.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, I mean, it does happen. And I
Mhm,
definitely think that the aura of the house has a lot to do with that. I mean, I'm a big
mhm,
believer in cleansing your house before you go and live in
mhm.
it. I
We
always
did that quite a bit in that house
Mhm.
because before that I didn't even know about sage and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. Oh no,
And
I
he
cleanse my house
was
thoroughly before I go in it
he,
anymore.
he did it quite often actually because he usually would do it when I was at work so that he could open up everything and you know but
Yeah.
and at one point another friend of ours had given us some things to burn, some certain things. I forget what
Yeah.
it was. Um, and she said there's a kind of, I think she had there was a CD to play, so he did that. Um, it was certain kind of music to help.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah. So that was weird, but I mean, and I had a lot of night terrors.
Oh, nice. Okay. Um
So,
Okay. Did you hear any odd footsteps, noises, or strange behaviors that seemed to target you or your spouse?
can you say that again?
Did you hear any odd footsteps, noises, or strange behaviors that seemed to target you or your spouse?
Um, I don't. Okay, so I one time there was a night that Brian actually was sleepwalking, and it was freaky. Because he just got up, and it looked like he was in a trance, which you kind of are when you're sleepwalking, I guess. But um, he he walked all the way out of the bedroom, down the hall to the very end of the hall, where between the other two rooms, and just stopped. And I was like, let me get you back to bed. And I was like, oh, you're not really supposed to startle someone who's sleepwalking, but I
Right,
was like,
right.
yeah, let me get you back to bed. But it was so creepy.
Yeah, that is creepy. Absolutely. Did you feel like this entity seemed to target Brian more than you, or did you think it was
I
more
think that
equal?
I think in the beginning it might have been equal, but it definitely seemed like it was targeting him more because he was always feeling like he was getting touched.
Did he spend more time in the house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Any more questions about that particular topic? Tell me a little bit about the strange activities that happened in the garage, and how would you feel when you were in the garage, and were your animals affected in the garage?
So there was that one time we talked about the hangers. I went in there and there was hangers on this place. It's next to the washer and dryer, and it's where I hung clothes. But there was like these 3 or 4 hangers that just started like swinging, and it wasn't swinging like lightly, but the rest of the hangers weren't
Wow.
moving. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And so at the time I had bought one of those digital recorders, and I thought, well, because I was going to try and see if I could capture any like EVPs or something. And so what I did with that, I just left it in there. I just set it down by there, and I had it record that sound because I was like, I'm going to leave now. And it seemed like there was like, I don't know, it's just really weird. But yeah, I didn't like going in there a whole lot at night. When, even though, yes, there was light, we could turn on a light. That's where the laundry was. So, I mean, we couldn't avoid it. And that's where we parked our cars when Brian wasn't using it to do like projects and stuff. So yeah, that was weird. And yeah, there was another time. Oh, and Debbie has been with me when we were like trying to get like we were ghost hunting basically in the garage because that seemed to be where a lot of activity was.
That's
And we
right.
got
Well,
those creepy pictures of the faces,
mm-hmm.
Wow.
and then yeah, we tried using you brought your dowsing rods one time,
That's right.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was just a weird feeling in there. It just and it's I remember telling myself, does it make sense? A garage, you don't think of a garage being haunted.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask
Mm-mm.
Debbie a question. Debbie, did you ever feel like anybody had in that house?
No, I didn't. I could feel a presence in the garage very strongly.
Me
In fact, I
too.
took a picture of I took a picture of Elise, and I have if she can find it, there was something behind her head. Do you remember that,
Right.
Elise?
Yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
no, I didn't feel anything bad had happened in there. I just
It
could
was
feel a
just
strong presence
it
of
was a
something.
really weird feeling in that house, and it was like there was an old
Mm-hmm.
man in that particular
Yes.
garage,
Yes.
and it was like
Mm-hmm.
maybe he would sit out there and smoke cigarettes or something. I felt like
Yeah.
there was like an easy chair out there or something, and he would just
Mm-hmm.
sit out there and smoke cigarettes. And I always felt whenever when I went out there, and I visited Elisa one for like a week. We came out to Daytona and we hung out with her for a little while. And when we were there, I remember thinking, wow, I remembered feeling that way, feeling that for some reason.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether there was like
Mm-hmm.
or something happened, because it was like a heavy feeling, like he was
Yes,
there.
it was a heavy feeling. Right, I felt that too. And I think in one of the pictures there is an old man or old face or something. Wasn't there, Elise? Didn't we catch that in the garage too? I think we did.
Yeah.
of
But
an
it
old
looked,
man.
I don't know, it didn't really look like an old man to me. It looked a little creepier than that. But
Right.
kind of looked, if I were gonna put a gender to it, I would have said female.
Really?
For those pictures, but I don't know. I do know that, to my knowledge, I did get information from the neighbors, like, because we asked like who had lived there before and what was their deal, but it doesn't sound like anybody died in the home at all.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I mean, maybe somebody had lived there before and just died somewhere
Right.
else, and maybe that was just their place that they really enjoyed and wanted to go back to it. You know what I mean? It
Right.
Yeah,
could
but
be an
why would
attachment.
they give off? But I don't know why they would give off a negative energy.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they died of something heavy.
Right.
Sometimes people die of pneumonia
Hmm.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
heavy. They feel heavy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't honestly answer that question. I just was curious. I honestly felt that, and I remember we had talked about it yesterday, and I said something about, and I kept on thinking that, and I don't know why I thought that, because I mentioned it to you
Mhm.
yesterday about, and I remember thinking that, and I don't know why I thought that, and you said you'd said no, I don't remember anything about it, and I'm like thinking I don't know why I thought that, so I got to mention it.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to mention it, and I'm going to put it out there.
Maybe,
Anyway,
you
so
never know.
yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I'm just gonna put it out there. Okay, and then I'll keep on moving. Did you capture any footage on the webcam of some of the ghost experiences?
On the webcam.
Yeah, did you guys do the any webcam stuff in the
Mm-mm.
Florida house at all? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. Mm-mm.
No. Okay. So you only have the photos and the ghost hunter stuff, or
Right.
Well, we didn't even get anything from the
I mean,
ghost
just the
hunting
pictures.
people.
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Mhm.
Let's see. You already talked about nightmares and dream states, sleepwalking. You've already talked about that. And
I did have in the Kansas house when I moved back, and I remember having, I don't know what, I guess they were sleepwalking, but I got up out of bed in a panic and ran up the stairs and almost ran out the house
Oh God.
because something was after me. And then there was another time I was fighting something and I karate chopped some tapes and that hurt.
I bet.
I hit my wrist on the speaker, but yeah, that was about it.
okay, and my last question is: do you think that this entity moved with you to Arizona?
No.
Okay, then my questions are done. Woo!
Well, I have a few. I have a
Well,
few,
Okay.
and they're a little more broad. They're not quite as in depth, and I might disappear off of your computer for a minute or two, but I'm still here. But I'm going to my questions. Where are you from originally? Where were you born?
On the East Coast.
Okay. And did you have any experiences? Were you too young to have any experiences there?
Yeah, I was a baby.
Were you okay? I wasn't sure if you had anything going
I was
on
like
at that time.
2. We moved when I was about 2.
Two. Okay, that is pretty young. So
Yeah.
that brings me to the next question, which Hetty had asked. Your very first paranormal experience, was that the one with your mother?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
Possibly.
Okay. Do you have you had a pet that was particularly sensitive to paranormal experiences? One pet in particular?
I think the dogs in Florida.
You think
Mhm.
so? Okay. You probably had the most activity in Florida as well, I bet.
hard to say. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. This is more broad, but in the paranormal world, what do you find most difficult to believe yourself, in your opinion?
I mean, it's helpful if there's another witness
Ah,
than if you're by yourself, you're just by yourself. Because, you know, it just is, I think. So Brian
that's
was
true.
there for some things. And also if the dogs, I mean, they do something
Or
major, like run out of room squealing, that
yeah,
kind of,
that's. Or if you have the pictures you were talking about, the evidence,
right.
I would think that would
But
back
then
up.
you
You don't
have,
have any of that.
well, we have some pictures, but then again, you have to take in consideration pareidolia.
That's true.
Or
Seeing faces,
pareidolia. That's how you
pareidolia,
say
seeing
it.
faces. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So if you don't have someone backing you up, it is kind of, people can be skeptical
Yeah.
sometimes
And
about
even
that.
I can. Because
Yeah.
even I, you know, I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
don't know about that.
Yeah, sometimes I am too. I like to keep an open mind, but sometimes even I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
When was the scariest you've ever been? What happened? Was it the same thing with your mother? Was that the scariest ever paranormal experience that you've had?
I think so.
Something that
Um,
really shook you?
Probably that, because there was like an image
Yeah.
or a thing, but I mean, I really had felt like that. The last house was. Mm, it, I really needed to. I remember when I lived there, I was always wanting to be out of the house
Oh, okay.
a lot.
Yeah.
Like every day, I wanted to be somewhere else.
Somewhere
Um,
else.
and I don't know if it was just because um it was nice out, or if it was just because I just wanted to be out of that house, and the feeling in it, because you can also convince yourself, oh, it's lovely out, that's why I'm going outside.
Yeah. Sure.
um and I did forget to mention that uh the last year that we were there, I remember I was working on something, and I was hearing like footsteps
Oh,
coming from above, like in the attic, which there's not room to stand up in there.
wow.
And that was weird.
Yeah.
And I got Brian, I was like, Brian, do you hear this? And when I get him, every time I would ask him that, because he was listening to something with headphones or something, listening to music really loud, I don't know. And he'd be like, I don't hear anything. And then he'd go back to whatever he was doing, and I'd be sitting there, and I was doing some work, and I was like, what the heck is this? It was so weird. And it was light outside, so I mean, when I think about it, it wasn't consistently happening at night.
Mm-hmm.
It was just whenever
Whenever the spirit moved it, so to speak.
Right.
So to speak.
Right.
Would you be willing sometime to go with a professional ghost hunting team to go on a ghost hunt, an actual ghost hunt?
I actually went with a tour group that did ghost hunts.
Oh,
They
nice.
give you the what do you call those, EF meters or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went on the tour with them, and then to some buildings, and I did feel, they said, oh, you'll feel blah 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 if you can sense whatever. I forget what it was, like feeling lightheaded and ears ringing and stuff like that, which I did. And then I remember recently, since we've been talking about this and it's been I started having ringing in my ears again. And pressure things. I'm like, are we doing what Robin said would happen?
Oh my. Wow. That's interesting.
Um,
We could be bringing
yeah,
something about us. We could be
right.
attracting things. What's the last paranormal experience you've had? What's the very last one you can recall having?
Well, actually, I had something weird happen here, but I don't consider it to be ghostly. What is the word?
Something unusual.
Physics, some weird physics. That's what I called it.
Oh.
There was a coin that fell on the floor, and it just lay there, and I was like about to pick it up, and then it like turned on its side and started spinning, and I was like, okay,
What?
that's weird. How did it do that?
Weird.
My goodness.
And that happened in this house?
Yeah, in the kitchen. It was a while back. Nothing's really happened otherwise.
Yeah.
So I just figured, okay, well, maybe it was something weird in the atmosphere that did that.
It could be. I say blame everything on the eclipse. I don't know.
Of course it's the eclipse.
I don't know.
Way in advance of its presence.
Of it. Exactly.
It's Mercury in retrograde.
I always say Mercury and Gatorade. I always say that.
Yes, absolutely.
There was another weird thing that happened to Brian and our neighbor in Florida, though. And I wish he was here to tell the story, but getting him to go on things is difficult right now. But I was out. I guess I was out in the living room. I was already up. And he comes out and he said, I just had a really weird experience. And I'm like, okay. And he said he got out of bed, put one foot, he woke up. Well, I'm horrible at retelling stories, but he got up, he sat on the side of the bed, and he said, well, that was weird. And he doesn't know what he was talking about. And then he got a call from the neighbor who he used to hang out with. Sometimes they'd play games like PlayStation or something. And then the neighbor told him that he did the exact same thing.
Oh, that's weird.
Yes, it is weird.
Wow.
And
what?
And they were both kind of like, that's really weird. And then I was like, well, maybe you guys got abducted.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. And then set back down at the same time.
Just saying.
That was weird because it was like they knew like what time and it was like the same time. It was like synchronized.
Huh.
We're in prime abduction country, you know.
Well,
that's right, you are.
You know, and that was in Florida. So, and Florida apparently does have a lot of sightings.
Well,
I've never seen it.
That's true, they do.
I know I saw something in white once in our backyard in Florida, but I don't know what it was. I mean,
I know those pictures are crazy. Just saying.
But
crazy.
But and then I was thinking, that's really weird because I didn't even wake up if that happened to you.
Wow. Do you believe that loved ones who have passed can visit our dreams, or do you just think that's nonsense?
Well, I told you, I think my grandmother came to tell me that stuff.
I believe so too. Well, some people think
to say goodbye later.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard some people explain that you're really dreaming about an aspect of that person that you wish you had, or something. But it comforts me to think that they visited. I'm just like, let me have my comforts, you know. And I think that
I don't want to take that away from anybody, and
exactly.
And we can't really prove that or disprove it.
No, that's true. That's true too.
Yeah, can you climb in somebody's head and tell them no? I mean,
exactly. Exactly.
Let them experience what they want to experience. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter anyway.
If it gives them peace, not.
And when I knew my grandmother, I mean, she didn't say a whole lot. She lived with us for a while, and
Right.
um,
I remember her.
so yeah, and so then that dream, she was actually saying quite a bit and things I'd never heard her talk like that before, and that's why I had to run it by my mom because she would know.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
honestly, I have a whole entourage
uh-huh.
that walk with me. You know, I
Right.
have a whole group of people that walk with me. You know, I have a whole lot of people that have died already that I interact with that are my friends
Mm-hmm.
on the other side that, you know, that I interact with in my dream state a lot, you know,
Right.
that I miss and I talk to and I think about and I wonder about and and I honestly have more friends on the other side than I do here.
Oh,
So it's kind of it's weird because you feel like you've got like one foot on this side and one foot on the other side, and you don't know which one is more important anymore. At some point, you're like, I don't know what's more important because the
right.
relationships you have are really valuable regardless. And whatever keeps you sane, I guess, is the most important thing. So, what the
Mm-hmm.
hell?
Yeah,
But
I know. Like my maternal grandmother was known to have some level of ESP or uh,
right.
and knew things. She knew when people were going to come visit, and she was born in way before telephones and any kind of communication devices. They didn't exist then.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and and then my my dad, on the other hand, apparently also had premonitions because we had the same one about my brother. So
Hmm.
that was weird
Was
because
your
I didn't know that.
Was your grandmother on your mom's side or your grandmother on your dad's side?
Grandmother on my mom's side.
Oh, okay. So you had it on both sides of your family.
Yeah. And then when my maternal, no, when my paternal grandmother passed, my aunt gave me a deck of her um, Gypsy Witch cards. And I was like, wow, I would have never expected her to have that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's,
And so,
um,
but
I've come a
That's
weird
interesting.
question, but it's a fun question. What aspect of paranormal do you think would make a perfect movie? Like ghosts, demons, just for you to see?
well, I
Bigfoot.
prefer the stuff.
I don't know.
I prefer the stuff that's like um, paranormal
Right.
to things that are like serial killers or things like that, or
Me too.
torture movie. Yeah,
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
like. Yes, you do. You like Saw.
I guess I like Saw. Yeah. Yeah. But I was thinking of Hostel. I was thinking of the Hostel movies. I don't like those.
Oh yeah, I've
Those are
seen
just
that because
pure gore.
oh yeah, it's gross. Brian likes those more. He doesn't really watch
Really?
scary movies
Yeah.
anymore.
There's just no point. What if you were to star in one of those movies? What celebrity would star with you? Would you want? That would be good in that movie with you. Male or female, doesn't matter.
First I can't act my way out of a paper bag, but
Yeah, I know.
yeah. Um, well, I always like Jensen Ackles.
Oh
Who's
yeah,
that?
okay.
Can't think who
From
Great
that is.
choice.
Supernatural.
Great
Yeah, from
choice.
Supernatural.
That's the guy from
From where?
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Oh,
Supernatural.
I see.
Supernatural.
I'd have Dean.
Dean.
Yes, that's
Okay,
him. That's him.
Mhm.
that's him. Same guy.
That's the
Oh, that's
guy.
him.
Oh
You're
yeah.
like, oh yes,
Yeah.
that one.
So
Yeah. Perfect.
so Elisa and Jensen in the newest horror movie. Yes,
Yeah.
that'd
Perfect.
be great. I would buy 1,000 tickets.
Yes.
But the other reason I will watch the horror movies, even though I'm a lot jumpier than I used to be. Hi, puppy. Um, is because they are so usually so outlandish, and so you know that
Yeah.
that's not actually occurring.
Right. It's scarier when they have the movies that could happen, something that
Yeah.
are based on a true story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
scarier.
but they always that they always embellish
Oh,
those.
for sure. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I
But
don't have any more questions for her.
I think I thought of something I forgot.
Oh, no.
I can't remember.
Don't think
Here, I
about
thought we were.
Kansas, Florida.
What was it? It was something. Oh well, maybe it'll come up another time when we have that topic, whatever
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah. We keep thinking of things after our show is over. We think of things that, we
I
could have brought
know.
that up. We should have brought that up. But that's,
Well, we did good though this time because we made a list.
yeah, we did
Yes.
make a list.
I
That
was
was
so proud. We were
I didn't
organized.
make a list, but
We were organized.
yeah, we'll get it straight one of these days. Takes time, you know.
Exactly.
Well, like and follow us, everybody. Subscribe.
Like and follow.
Yes.
Again, any spooky experiences if you've had, the Spooky Sisters 666 at gmail.com, and you may be on our show.
Yay.
You never know.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
guys.
share your
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.